The term consoleization has traditionally referred to the process in which an arcade game board is converted for use with a television, but of course today we understand that term very differently. Today, the term consoleization is a derisive term, referring to the process in which PC games incorporate gameplay elements and design concepts that are believed to be common in console games. Examples of consoleization include user interface and controls catering to gamepads, limited customization, plethora of purchasable DLCs, lack of dedicated servers, poor optimization, and of course, when words fail to describe exactly what makes a particular game consoleized, that catch-all term, dumbed down, plugs in all holes. It's not that I despise the term. Certainly, I'm a PC gamer, and it saddens my heart to see products like Bioshock and Deus Ex 2 and developers like Epic and id Software turning their attention from PC to console gaming. But I think that term is a bit overused and wrongly applied to describe games that have undeniably gone through fundamental changes, but not in a way that I consider them consoleized. It's become a myth, a spook story that dads tell their nerd kids at night. Get another B, and your favorite game is going to get consoleized. It has hit several video games, even games that haven't been released yet. Well before its March 8, 2011 release, Dragon Age 2 fell victim to this myth. People were complaining that the more action-focused gameplay was a classic example of consoleization, that BioWare has sold its soul to Bill Gates, that one of the last bastions of PC gaming has finally succumbed to the pressure of catering the games to console kiddies. Well, I'm Adam Savage, and I'm here to bust that myth. Admittedly, I'm a bit of a BioWare fanboy, and I do suffer priapism every time BioWare releases a game, which might make it difficult for absolute objectivism. But it's not like I love every BioWare game. I particularly didn't like Neverwinter Nights. And I don't feel Dragon Age 2 is perfect. There are a number of changes in Dragon Age 2 from Dragon Age Origins, but most of the changes are surprisingly minor, like not being able to equip your party's armor, with the sole exception being your main character. You can still equip their weapons and their trinkets such as magical rings and amulets, but they have preset armors that level up as they level up. Some have issues with this, but I personally don't care. In fact, in some ways I like it, because each of your party member keeps a consistent look throughout the game, with a few exceptions. In a way, the consistent look gives them character. After all, there's something weirder than dressing Kaidan in pink just because that's the best armor available to him. There are also noticeable absences from the game, such as stealing or coercion skills, and your ability to pick locks and disarm traps depends entirely on how many points you place in cunning. But I'm not interested in discussing all the changes. There are quite a few of them, and they are worth noting, but I'm mainly interested in discussing in how they impact the two core staples in BioWare's formula: story and combat. Dragon Age 2 story is extremely linear, but that shouldn't surprise anyone who's played other BioWare games. They're all extremely linear. What many people seem to complain about is that the story doesn't allow for meaningful decisions. In other words, choices you make throughout the game don't have a meaningful impact on the plot. Let's say there are 3 choices you're forced to make in the game. Let's say at any moment you're forced to make a good, neutral, or evil choice. If you make good, and good choices, you'd expect the plot to be drastically different than if you were to choose evil, and evil. At the very least, you'd expect your good, and good choices to be more similar in the plot's outcome to good, and neutral choices than evil, and evil choices. But that's not so in this game. The main plot does not change one bit. There are 3 acts in the game, and all 3 acts are loosely tied together. The loose tie being that the plot revolves around the exploits of your main character, whatever the hell you name your character Hawk. In all 3 acts, you end up basically doing the same things no matter what choices you make. For example, without giving too much away, your main plot in Act 1 is that Hawk has to provide for his family. You don't get to choose to be an ass and ditch your family. You don't get to choose to not go to this particular place where you're supposed to find a fortune and help your family out financially. Some fights you simply cannot avoid, but some major fights you can avoid. So you simply do not touch the main plot. But honestly, how many things do you impact in life outside of your control? Obama can't solve the economy crisis, and your Hawk can't help that a particular group is led by this crazy bastard hell-bent on destroying the world. What you do get to do with your choices is change the little details. Your choices may get someone killed or one of your party members to leave. Your choices may lead to a romance with a character. There are some dialogue between characters that you won't get to see if you make the wrong choices. There are some events that won't be triggered if you neglect something or someone. I won't get into specific details, but your choices will impact many small little details in the story, and that's really the beauty of the story. It is important to note that I enjoyed the story quite a bit, and certainly how much you enjoy the story and how invested you are in the story will meaningfully impact how you react to events. I for one found the story engaging, many of the characters very interesting. I mean, who doesn't love Flemeth? And some of the twists and turns in the plot very surprising. And you get to make a lot of tough choices since it's hard deciding which choice is inherently good, neutral, or evil. Depending on who you have in your party and how you treat them and what decisions you make, you'll discover certain information about the world and its characters that you weren't otherwise. And the story is appropriately epic. Some say it's not as epic as that of the first game, and that may be true in scope since Dragon Age 2 takes place entirely in one city, but the true measure of epicness lies not in scope, i.e. the setting or timeline. A story about a boy who saves his family can be epic, but in the writing, and BioWare's writing department has always excelled. When panic hits the city, the panic really hits. You feel everything around you crumbling to pieces. When you're faced with difficult choices, you feel the full weight of the issue tugging at you. When party members demand your support, you have to evaluate the consequences of the demands and how they will impact your overall goal. The game features a story that's not only complex and deep, but if you're invested in it, one that's emotionally charged and at times surprising. Many complain that there isn't a central tie between the acts, a lack of focus, meaning that a lot of the main quests and side quests feel a bit disjointed. And I do understand that criticism, but it's not something that I personally cared for, because that's pretty much true of all quests in all games. What matters to me is that the details of the quests, why you're doing the quests, what's involved in completing the quests, and so forth, interest me, and the quests are fun to partake in and complete. And they are very much so in this game. And some of the quests that seem relatively unrelated to the main plot of a story have surprising consequences to some of the details in the game. For example, there's a side quest regarding a boy. If you don't bother with the quest, not only will you get left out in the details of that quest, but it will prevent you from further discovering future quests and hence discovering even more about the characters involved. Multiple quests are linked in that sense, which makes a lot of the side quests feel more rewarding. Not only do you help this guy out in a seemingly unrelated to the main plot quest, but you get to revisit the same character in a subsequent quest on another act, which leads to more quests and dialogue choices opening. And that helps flesh out some of the supporting characters and makes them more memorable. It's not often that I remember many of the supporting characters in games and films, so it's pleasant that I still remember a lot of the characters' names and can actually describe them and their characteristics. The dialogue is also criticized often. People complain that many of the dialogue options are simple variations of yeses and nos. And that is true. If a character approaches you with a quest, you can either say yes in a nice way, yes in a neutral way or jokingly, or yes in an angry way. No matter which dialogue option you choose, you still end up accepting the quest. Some don't like that. And I see their point, but I for one found that to be far more liberating for the purposes of role-playing. In past BioWare games and role-playing games in general, the option was either to be good, neutral, or evil. Giving an evil response to an evil quest means that you accept the quest. Giving a good response to an evil quest means that you decline the quest. Basically, if you roleplay, you're stuck only doing evil or good quests, unless your character is neutral, in which case he or she can accept all quests. But in Dragon Age 2, if someone asks you to kill whoever, you're not given the option to decline often. If you're a good character, you begrudgingly take on the quest by choosing the good response, and BioWare, of course, gives you a very much plausible reason for your character forcing him or herself to take on this inherently evil quest. In this way, you're free to take on all the quests and experience the whole scope of the game. Also, BioWare does a nice job of making all the responses somewhat neutral, meaning that there really isn't a good or evil response. There are only charitable, jocular, and angry responses. So if you're siding with Group A instead of Group B, and something terrible happens to Group A, you can respond angrily without sounding evil. It lends to your character being more than just good or evil, as is the case with many RPGs. There are also romance options, but BioWare, or any developer for that matter, has never been all that good with romances. I wish that games would dig deeper into relationships like these. What BioWare essentially does is use some algorithm to figure out with whom your character will successfully romance. But the relationship that develops through the romance is often emotionally charged, if not always plausible. Some of the dialogues and scenes that I encountered in pursuing romances have been quite interesting and unexpectedly mature. And as always, the banter between the party members is quite often amusing. What I really want to get across with all the points I've made thus far is that role-playing is not all about making choices. The most essential part of role-playing, and brace yourself because this is going to be earth-shatteringly revelatory, is that you feel like you're playing your character's role. I know, me and my amazing insights. Yeah, your choices may not impact the main plot all that much, but that sounds realistic to me. Very few things are controllable in real life. What is important to role-playing is that you get sucked into the story and you revel in little details and make choices that impact them. You are whatever the hell you name your character, Hawk. You have a party. You lead them through the main plot. And you leave fingerprints all over your epic story that chronicles your rise from being a refugee in the city of Kirkwall to becoming its champion.
Wait, you've gone 4 years without. You must creak like a rusty hinge.
Many people have their lives because of me.
But poor you. No life of your own.
We both place others above ourselves. I happen to do it clothed.
You're splitting hairs, but wishing someone would split yours.
I've had enough of your loose lips. Like many, I'm sure.
Oh, touché, prig.
Slattern!
If I might put this back on track,